They arrived through the snow with flashing lights, believing they were there to secure a situation involving a missing K-9. What they didn't expect was the man behind him, a retired SWAT officer worn down by age, winter, and old injuries, and the dog, who refused to step away. As the storm tightened its grip and the ground beneath them began to shift, something became clear. This wasn't defiance, it's instinct. And when the moment came, one choice would decide whether loyalty was rewarded or paid for in blood. Stay with me. And if stories like this matter to you, subscribe now so you don't miss what happens next. Winter arrived without warning, sealing the mountains in silence, ice, and the kind of cold that didn't threaten. It promised. Michael Harris felt it before he saw it, the pressure change in the air settling deep into his bones like an old memory that never healed properly. At 63, Michael Harris lived alone in a weather-beaten log cabin pressed against a dense line of pine trees in northern Montana, a place most maps barely acknowledged. The cabin sat low against the land, its timber darkened by decades of snowmelt and neglect, its roof sagging slightly under the weight of early ice. He had chosen this isolation deliberately, long after the city noises and police radios had become unbearable. Retirement had not been gentle. A shattered lumbar vertebra from a failed breach 13 years earlier had ended his career with the SWAT unit, but it was the nights, the recurring echoes of shouted commands, the metallic clatter of gear hitting concrete, the faces he couldn't save, that truly forced him into the wilderness. Michael was a tall man once, broad-shouldered and imposing in his prime. Age and injury had narrowed him, bent him slightly forward. His frame remained solid, though softened by time, and his movements carried the caution of someone who understood pain intimately. His face was deeply lined, angular, with sharp cheekbones and a permanent crease between his brows. A thick gray beard, trimmed out of habit rather than vanity, framed a mouth that rarely smiled. His hair, once dark brown, was now iron gray and kept short, military neat, as if discipline itself had refused to retire. His eyes were pale blue, watchful, and carried the distant weight of a man who had learned to measure every room for exits, even when standing alone. The cabin's interior was sparse. A cast-iron stove dominated the main room, its fire burning lower each day as the stack of split logs beside it shrank. Michael counted everything now: food, fuel, daylight. The radio had gone silent 2 days earlier, its signal swallowed by the storm system crawling in from the west. The narrow dirt road connecting him to the nearest town had disappeared under 4 feet of snow overnight. He knew the signs. He had planned for winter, but this one had arrived faster, colder, and heavier than any forecast predicted. Rex lay near the door, his body positioned with quiet intention. The German Shepherd was nearly 10 years old, his black and tan coat flecked with gray around the muzzle and ears. A jagged scar ran beneath his left shoulder blade, half hidden by thick fur, an old injury from a deployment Michael rarely allowed himself to remember. Rex's build remained powerful despite his age, his chest broad, his legs thick with muscle shaped by years of training. One ear stood upright while the other tilted slightly forward, giving him a perpetually alert expression. His eyes were dark, intelligent, and unnervingly calm, the kind that watched without needing to move. Rex had not been just a dog. He had been a K-9 partner, trained for urban assault, explosive detection, and search and rescue during Michael's final years on the team. Officially, Rex had been retired due to age and injury. Unofficially, he had never stopped working. Even now in the quiet cabin, his breathing changed subtly whenever the wind shifted outside, his head lifting just enough to catch unfamiliar sounds beneath the storm's howl. Michael watched him from the small wooden table where a single lantern cast long shadows across the walls. He trusted Rex more than any weather report. If Rex stayed still, the world was stable. If Rex listened, something was changing. Fuel was the immediate concern. Michael rose slowly, favoring his right leg, and pulled on his heavy coat. The pain flared predictably along his spine, a sharp reminder of the past. He paused, steadying himself, breathing through it the way the department therapist had taught him years ago. Outside, the temperature had dropped well below zero. The snow wasn't drifting. It was compacting, layering into something heavier, more dangerous. He stepped onto the porch, the wood groaning beneath his boots. The forest beyond the clearing was unnaturally still. No birds, no distant wind through branches. Silence like this was never natural. Michael's instincts stirred, not fear exactly, but awareness. He scanned the tree line out of habit, noting fallen branches, the slope of the land, the way the snow lay unevenly against the rocks. Behind him, Rex rose without command and moved to Michael's side. The dog's posture shifted subtly, his weight balanced forward, ears adjusting as if tuning into frequencies humans could no longer hear. His tail remained low, steady, not wagging. "You hear it too," Michael murmured, his voice rough from disuse. Rex didn't look at him. He was listening to something beneath the wind, beneath the cold. Michael felt the familiar tightening in his chest, the quiet calculation that had once defined his life. He had survived gunfights, collapsed buildings, and nights where backup never came. But winter was different. Winter didn't care about courage or training. It waited. As he turned back toward the cabin, Michael glanced once more at the shrinking woodpile and the darkening sky. The storm wasn't just coming. It was settling in. And deep down, in a place he rarely acknowledged, Michael understood a simple truth he had learned the hard way. Out here, survival wasn't about strength anymore. It was about awareness. One mistake, one overlooked sign, and the mountain would claim him quietly, without witnesses. Rex followed him inside, the door closing behind them with a final heavy thud, sealing two aging warriors against a winter that showed no mercy. The sound reached Rex before the smell did, a faint metallic vibration traveling through the frozen ground, too subtle for human ears but unmistakable to a dog trained to notice what others ignored. The cabin was dark, the fire reduced to embers when Rex's body stiffened. His ears shifted forward, muscles tightening beneath his aging coat. A low, almost inaudible growl rumbled in his chest, not a warning, but recognition. The air carried something wrong. A sharp chemical edge threaded through the cold, faint yet persistent, the same scent he had been conditioned to identify years earlier in collapsed buildings and underground corridors. Gas. Rex rose without hesitation. He did not bark. He did not panic. He moved with purpose, nails clicking softly against the wooden floors. He crossed the cabin and pushed his nose against the door seam, inhaling again. Outside, beneath layers of compacted snow, something was leaking, humming faintly through old metal. This was not curiosity. This was work. Michael woke to the sound of the door creaking open. His body reacted before his mind fully surfaced, years of training overriding sleep. He sat up sharply, pain flaring down his spine as he reached for the lantern. "Rex!" His voice cracked, thick with confusion. Cold air rushed in, carrying snowflakes and the distant howl of wind. Rex stood on the porch, head low, scanning the darkness. Michael swung his legs off the bed and forced himself upright, pulling on his boots with shaking hands. He recognized the posture instantly, the same stance Rex used before clearing a room, before moving toward danger instead of away from it. "Easy," Michael muttered, more to himself than the dog. "What is it, boy?" Rex didn't turn back. He stepped off the porch and into the storm, following the scent trail as it curved downhill toward the tree line. Michael grabbed his coat and staggered after him, snow biting at his face the moment he crossed the threshold. Visibility was poor, the wind driving ice into his eyes. His injured leg protested with every step, but panic pushed him forward. Rex never left his sight completely, a dark shape moving with certainty through the whiteout. Then Michael's foot slipped. The ground beneath the snow gave way unexpectedly, slick ice hidden below fresh powder. He fell hard, the impact driving the air from his lungs. Pain exploded across his lower back, white-hot and blinding. He tried to call out, but the wind stole his voice. His vision narrowed, the world tilting as consciousness drained away. The last thing he saw was Rex stopping abruptly, turning, ears flattened in alarm as he sprinted back toward him. When Michael opened his eyes again, the world was wrong. Bright lights cut through the gray, harsh and disorienting. Voices echoed around him, sharp and urgent. Snow crunched under heavy boots. He blinked, trying to focus, his breath fogging in the freezing air. "Sir, don't move." The voice was male, controlled, carrying the practiced authority of law enforcement. Michael's head throbbed as he lifted it slightly. Red and blue lights pulsed against the snowbanks, reflecting off the frozen trees. 3 patrol vehicles were parked unevenly nearby, engines running, local police. Rex stood directly in front of him, legs braced, body low but solid. His teeth were visible now, not bared in attack, but ready. He positioned himself between Michael and the approaching officers, a living barrier. "Control your dog," another voice shouted. "Hands where we can see them." Michael raised one trembling hand slowly, confusion giving way to dawning fear. "He won't hurt anyone," he rasped. "He's trained." The nearest officer stopped several feet away, posture tense. He was a broad-shouldered man in his late 30s with a close-cropped beard and tired eyes that suggested long shifts and little patience. His name tag read, Officer Daniel Brooks. His hand hovered near his sidearm, not drawn, but ready. Brooks assessed the scene quickly. The injured old man, the large German shepherd blocking access, the storm worsening by the minute. Behind him stood Officer Lena Ortiz, shorter, lean, her dark hair pulled into a tight bun beneath her cap. Her expression was cautious rather than aggressive, eyes flicking between Rex and Michael. She held a flashlight steady, its beam cutting across Rex's rigid frame. "That dog's not acting feral," she said quietly. "He's guarding." "Dispatch says the K9 was reported missing 2 hours ago." Brooks replied under his breath. "Sheriff's unit is still en route." Rex growled again, deeper this time, a clear boundary drawn. He did not advance, he did not retreat. Snow gathered on his back, melting slowly against his body heat. Michael's heart pounded. He recognized the situation instantly, even through pain and disorientation. To them, Rex was a threat. To Rex, they were. "Easy, Rex," Michael whispered, forcing calm into his voice despite the tremor in his hands. The dog flicked an ear but did not move. A fourth figure approached from the side, boots crunching deliberately. Sheriff's Deputy Mark Hensley, mid-40s, tall and gaunt, with a weathered face and deep-set eyes that suggested years spent patrolling rural roads. A gray mustache lined his upper lip, frost clinging to it as he spoke. "That dog's trained," Hensley said flatly. "You don't see that kind of discipline in strays." Rex's eyes locked onto Hensley, assessing. After a long moment, his growl softened but did not disappear. Michael swallowed, forcing himself to speak clearly. He left because he smelled something. Gas. There's something leaking under the snow. His voice wavered, but the words were deliberate. Years of SWAT briefings had taught him how to communicate under pressure, even when no one wanted to listen. Brooks frowned. "Sir, right now our priority is securing the scene." Rex shifted his stance slightly, pressing closer to Michael's leg. Not fear, protection. The wind howled louder, carrying with it that same sharp chemical scent, stronger now. Ortiz's nose wrinkled. She paused, inhaling again. "You smell that?" Hensley did. His expression changed subtly, tension creeping into his jaw. "Yeah," he said, "that's not just snow." No one moved. The storm closed in around them, visibility dropping further. Rex remained unmoving, steadfast, eyes alert, body prepared. He had done this before, stood his ground while chaos circled, waiting for the humans to catch up. Michael leaned back against the snowbank, exhaustion threatening to pull him under again. He had lost consciousness once tonight. He knew he might not get a second chance, but Rex was still standing, still working, still protecting. Whatever danger lay beneath the frozen ground, Rex had found it. And now, unknowingly, he was guarding more than just one broken old man. He was guarding the truth. The storm intensified, swallowing the clearing in white as distant sirens echoed faintly through the mountains. The night was far from over. The wind carried the smell again, sharper now, cutting through the cold with a chemical bite that didn't belong in pine country. Michael tasted it on the back of his tongue as he struggled to sit upright, his breath shallow, his spine screaming in protest. Snow pressed against his coat, already stiffening with ice. Above him, Rex stood unmoving, his body angled forward, ears rigid, eyes fixed beyond the officers as if watching something none of them could see yet. "Sir, stay down," Officer Brooks ordered, though his voice lacked the earlier edge. He had shifted his stance, feet wider now, boots grinding into the snow as he turned his head slightly, testing the air, his brow furrowed beneath his cap. Brooks was a practical man, built like a former high school linebacker, shoulders thick, beard trimmed short for regulation. Years on patrol had taught him when instinct deserved attention. Something about this scene didn't add up. Officer Lena Ortiz lowered her flashlight and crouched several feet away, careful not to make sudden movements. Up close, her face showed fine lines around the eyes, the kind that came from focus rather than age. She was in her early 40s, athletic, her posture controlled and deliberate. Ortiz had grown up in the city, but she trusted behavior more than assumptions. The dog wasn't advancing. The dog wasn't panicking. That mattered. Deputy Mark Hensley stood slightly apart from them, arms crossed, scanning the slope beyond the clearing. He'd worked these mountains for nearly 20 years. He knew their moods. Tonight, the land felt wrong. "That smell's coming uphill," he muttered. "Whatever it is, it's trapped under the snow." Rex shifted his weight, claws digging in. His growl deepened, not louder, but heavier, vibrating through his chest. Michael felt it against his leg. He knew that sound. Rex wasn't warning the officers, he was warning everyone else. Michael swallowed, forcing air into his lungs. Pain made his vision blur, but his mind sharpened. This was familiar. Chaos, conflicting priorities, seconds that mattered. "There's an old service line," he said hoarsely. "Buried. Decommissioned years ago. I saw the markers when I bought the property." His voice cracked, but he pushed through it. "Gas line. Runs under that slope." Brooks turned sharply. "Dispatch didn't mention any pipeline." "They wouldn't," Michael replied. "It's not active. Or it wasn't supposed to be." Ortiz's eyes flicked to Hensley. The deputy nodded once, grim. "There were records," he said. "From the 70s. Most of them are incomplete." The wind shifted again. The smell intensified. Ortiz's expression changed instantly. She covered her nose with her sleeve, eyes narrowing. "Okay," she said quietly. "I smell it now." Rex took a single step forward, then stopped, looking back over his shoulder at Michael. His eyes locked onto him, searching, waiting. Permission. Michael felt a tight knot form in his chest. He had given that look hundreds of times before. To clear, to advance, to find. He raised his hand weakly. "Show them," he whispered. Rex moved, not fast, not aggressively. He trotted forward with controlled urgency, head low, following the invisible trail that cut through the snow. The officers hesitated, weapons still holstered, watching him move with unmistakable purpose. Brooks glanced at Ortiz, then at Hensley. "We follow," he said. "Slow." They advanced carefully, boots crunching, spacing out instinctively. The slope dipped sharply ahead, the snow thinner in places, disturbed by subtle heat beneath the surface. Rex stopped near a half-buried metal post barely visible above the ice. He pawed at the snow once, then backed away abruptly, hackles raised. Hensley froze. "That's one of the old markers," he said. "Jesus." A low rumble echoed beneath their feet, not loud but felt. The ground vibrated, a shudder traveling through packed snow and frozen earth. Ortiz staggered slightly, catching herself. "That's pressure," she said. "That's not normal." Brooks reached for his radio. "Dispatch, this is Unit 3. We may have a gas leak under the north slope near Harris's property. Possible instability. Requesting fire and utilities immediately." Static crackled back. Delays, distance, weather. Michael watched from where he lay, heart hammering. He had seen this before. Not gas, but buildings moments before collapse. The signs were always there if you knew how to read them. The land didn't give warnings twice. Rex backed toward Michael again, positioning himself protectively. His breathing was steady, controlled. He had completed his task, identified the threat. Now he guarded. "We need to move him," Ortiz said, gesturing to Michael. "Now," Brooks nodded. "Careful." They approached slowly this time. Rex watched every step but didn't growl. Michael felt hands under his arms, lifting him gently. Pain flared white-hot, but he bit back a scream. He refused to let this end with someone else hurt because he hesitated. As they pulled him backward, the ground gave another low groan. Snow cracked along the slope, a long fracture spreading like a spiderweb. "Go!" Hensley shouted. They moved fast then. Michael was dragged clear as the slope shifted, snow sliding several feet downward before settling again, unstable but momentarily still. The silence afterward was absolute. Everyone stood frozen, breaths visible, hearts pounding. Rex broke the stillness with a single sharp bark, not alarm but insistence. Michael closed his eyes briefly, exhaustion washing over him. Rex had been right, again. The truth was no longer buried. It was breathing beneath the snow, waiting for the wrong step. And for the first time since the officers arrived, no one questioned why the dog had disobeyed. The mountain did not collapse all at once. It shifted, groaned, and waited, as if deciding how much it was willing to take. Snow slid in slow, heavy sheets, dragging ice and buried debris with it. The air filled with a deep hollow sound that Michael recognized instantly, the sound of ground giving up its balance. "Move. Everyone move now," Deputy Hensley shouted. They ran, or tried to. Ortiz grabbed Michael under one arm, Brooks on the other, hauling him backward through knee-deep snow. Michael's injured leg screamed with every step, his vision flashing white at the edges. He could hear Rex behind them at first, his steady breathing, the crunch of his paws, until suddenly he couldn't. "Rex!" Michael twisted his head, panic slicing through the pain. The German Shepherd had stopped. A section of snow collapsed inward, not violently but decisively, pulling part of the slope down like a slow wave. Rex vanished behind a wall of white and gray. The sound he made wasn't a bark. It was a sharp, startled yelp, cut off too quickly. Michael felt something inside him tear loose. "No!" He wrenched free despite Brooks's grip, his foot slipping as he fell hard onto his knees. Pain detonated through his spine, but he barely felt it. "My dog's back there," Brooks cursed, reaching for him. "Sir, you can't—" Michael shoved him away with a strength he didn't know he had left. That dog saved your lives! Another rumble rolled beneath their feet. Ortiz stumbled, catching herself just in time. Snow continued to creep downward, unstable, threatening to give way completely. Hensley looked back toward the slope, jaw clenched. He'd seen men make this choice before, go back for someone when everything said not to. It never ended cleanly. "We don't have the manpower," he said. "We wait for rescue." Michael shook his head violently. Snow clung to his beard, his eyes wild, desperate. "He's trained. He won't panic. He'll be trapped." His voice broke. "I won't leave him." Brooks hesitated. His instincts screamed procedure, scene safety, containment, but the image burned into his mind. Rex standing between them in danger, unmoving, unafraid. "Sir," he said quietly, "if you go back there, you might not come out." Michael met his eyes. For the first time, Brooks saw past the injuries and age. He saw the man Michael had been. "I already didn't," Michael replied. Before anyone could stop him, Michael turned and staggered back toward the slope. Each step felt like walking on knives. The cold gnawed through his coat, through muscle and bone. Snow slid again beneath his boots, forcing him to drop to all fours. "Rex!" he shouted into the storm. A faint sound answered him, a scrape, a low, muffled whine. Michael crawled forward, ignoring the agony screaming through his body. He found a break in the snow where the ground had collapsed into a shallow pocket. He clawed at it with bare hands, tearing skin as ice cut into his fingers. Blood stained the snow dark. "Easy, boy," he whispered, his voice shaking. "I'm here." The hole widened enough for him to see Rex's face beneath the packed snow and debris. One eye was open, glassy but aware. His chest moved, shallow but steady. A beam of broken wood pinned his hind leg at an angle that made Michael's stomach twist. Rex didn't struggle. He didn't whine again. He simply looked at Michael, tail thumping weakly once against the snow. "I've got you," Michael said, though his hands trembled violently. He tried to lift the beam. It didn't budge. His back screamed in protest, the old injury flaring catastrophically. Behind him, Brooks and Ortiz appeared, breathless, eyes wide. "Damn it," Brooks muttered. "He actually went back." Hensley followed, face grim. "We have about 2 minutes before that slope goes again." Ortiz dropped to her knees beside Michael without hesitation. "Tell me what to do." Michael swallowed hard. His vision blurred, but his mind locked into focus, the same clarity he'd felt on 100 operations. "We shift the weight," he said. "Slow. Don't spook him." Brooks wedged himself on the other side, boots digging into ice. Together, they lifted, inch by agonizing inch. The beam moved just enough. "Now," Michael said. "Pull." Rex was free. The moment the pressure released, the ground shifted again. A louder crack split the air. Snow began to pour downward in earnest. "Go!" Hensley roared. Brooks grabbed Rex by the harness. Ortiz hauled Michael backward as the slope finally collapsed behind them, snow and debris roaring down like a living thing. They barely cleared the edge before it swallowed the space where they'd been moments earlier. They hit the ground hard. Silence followed, broken only by heavy breathing and the distant wind. Michael lay flat on his back, staring at the dark sky. He couldn't feel his legs. Fear crept in, cold and sharp. Rex crawled onto his chest, despite his injured leg, pressing his weight gently against Michael as if anchoring him to the earth. His head rested under Michael's chin, warm breath fogging the air. Michael laughed weakly, tears freezing on his lashes. "You stubborn son of a—" His voice failed him. Sirens echoed closer now. Rescue was finally coming. Michael closed his eyes, one hand buried in Rex's fur, unsure if he could open them again. But Rex stayed there, solid and warm, refusing to let him drift away. Loyalty had a price. Tonight, Michael had paid it gladly. Morning arrived quietly, not with sunlight but with warmth, subtle, careful, earned. Michael became aware of it slowly, drifting back from a heavy, medicated sleep. The first thing he felt was pressure on his chest, solid and familiar. The second was the steady rhythm of breathing that did not belong to him. Rex. Michael opened his eyes to soft white light and the muted hum of machinery. He was in a hospital room, small and clean, the kind built for rural emergencies rather than long stays. Snow pressed against the window outside, but inside, the air was calm. Rex lay across him diagonally, his injured hind leg wrapped in thick bandages, his head resting against Michael's collarbone. His eyes were open, alert, watching Michael's face the moment he stirred. "Well," Michael whispered, his voice rough but alive, "looks like you beat me again." Rex's tail thumped once against the mattress, slow and careful, as if he understood exactly how fragile this moment was. Michael took stock of his body the way he'd been trained to. Pain radiated from his spine, dulled but present. His legs responded when he tried to move them, barely, but enough. Relief washed through him, sharp and overwhelming. He closed his eyes briefly, breathing through it. A woman entered the room quietly, clipboard tucked against her chest. She was in her early 50s, tall and lean, with silver blonde hair pulled back into a low braid. Her face was weathered but kind, skin pale from long winters spent outdoors. Her name badge read, Dr. Sarah Whitaker. She moved with the efficiency of someone who wasted no words but understood when silence mattered. "You're lucky," she said, glancing at the monitors before meeting his eyes. "Another few minutes out there and we'd be having a very different conversation." Michael exhaled. "Story of my life." Sarah's mouth twitched into a faint smile. "Spinal compression, no new fractures. You'll walk again, slowly." She nodded toward Rex. "Your dog's tougher than most people I know. Mild crush injury. He'll limp for a while." Michael's hand tightened instinctively in Rex's fur. "He always does." Later that afternoon, Deputy Hensley returned, hat tucked under his arm, expression stripped of authority and softened by something closer to respect. "Utilities shut the line down," he said. "Fire confirmed it. If that dog hadn't picked it up when he did." He shook his head. "You saved lives, both of you." Officer Brooks and Ortiz followed behind him. Brooks looked uncomfortable, shifting his weight, while Ortiz met Michael's eyes without hesitation. "We filed the report," she said. "Clear as it gets. Rex acted to prevent a larger incident." Brooks cleared his throat. "There's procedure," he said carefully. "Evaluations, paperwork." He paused. "But between you and me, that dog never stopped being yours." Michael felt something loosen in his chest that he hadn't realized was still clenched. Weeks passed. The storm cycle broke. Snow retreated slowly from the roads. Michael returned to his cabin with a brace around his waist and a cane he resented but accepted. Rex walked beside him, gait uneven but determined. The house was warmer now. Utilities assistance, community deliveries, quiet support offered without pity. An official envelope arrived one morning. Inside was a formal notice recognizing Rex as a retired K-9 hero, cleared of all concerns, approved to remain permanently with his original handler. Michael read it once, then again. Then he folded it carefully and set it aside. That night, he sat by the fire. Rex stretched out nearby, the crackle of burning wood filling the silence that no longer felt empty. Michael stared into the flames, thinking of the years he'd spent believing survival meant standing alone. Rex lifted his head and rested it against Michael's knee. Michael smiled, small, tired, real. "Guess we're home," he said. Outside, the wind moved gently through the trees. Winter was still there, but it no longer felt endless. Life doesn't always test us when we're strong. Sometimes it waits until we're tired, older, and convinced we have nothing left to give. This story reminds us that loyalty, integrity, and courage don't fade with age, and neither does the bond between those who once protected each other. In everyday life, we face quieter storms, being overlooked, misunderstood, or feeling left behind. But the choices we make in those moments still matter. Someone may be watching how we stand when it would be easier to walk away. If this story moved you, share it with someone who believes they're facing life alone. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Do you believe loyalty is something we're born with, or something life teaches us the hard way? Tell me in the comments, and if stories like this speak to you, please subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next one. Thank you so much for watching.